Namaskar, viewers, and welcome. If there is one issue which has dominated the news this week, it is the violence which has rocked our neighboring country, Bangladesh. Yes, dramatic scenes was witnessed across the streets of the country, particularly in its capital city, Dhaka. These protests led to the sensational resignation of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The group which is responsible for spearheading this protest is the Islami Chhatra Shibir, which is the student wing of the Jamaat-e Islami Bangladesh. The Jamaat-e Islami was formed in the year 1975 and is one of the largest Islamic parties in Bangladesh. Interestingly, this group was banned from contesting the national elections in the nation in the year 2013. But today, let's understand the reasons for these deadly protests. A quick look at the background of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, as well as the current political situation prevailing in the nation. Now, Bangladesh was formed in the year 1971 after India had declared war on Pakistan back then. This happened because of a huge ethnic divide which existed in Pakistan on grounds of Bengali and non Bengali identities. This divide had gone on to spread widespread unrest as well as violence in the country. The war resulted in Pakistan getting split into two parts, with Eastern Pakistan getting a separate and a new identity, that is Bangladesh. This happened under the leadership of then Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Now, the father of the nation was declared to be Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Now, Sheikh Hasina is the daughter of Bangladesh's founding father. On 15th of August 1975, her father, her mother, as well as three brothers were killed in a military coup which was organized by the Bangladesh army. At that time, Sheikh Hasina, along with her sister Sheikh Rihana, were abroad in Europe, and that is why they managed to escape the situation. The two then later found refuge in India as the then Indian government led by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi promised to provide them safety as well as security for them to stay within India. In total, Sheikh Hasina had spent a period of 6 years in exile along with the surviving members of her family, and they then returned back to Bangladesh in the year 1981. Then later on, when it comes to the politics of Bangladesh, she played a key role in ending the rule of the then president Hussein Mohammad Ershad in the year 1990. While this man was serving as the president of the nation, he had imposed a military dictatorship in Bangladesh. Now, this, as I said, was ended by her in the year 1990. Later on, she became Prime Minister of Bangladesh for the first time when her party, the Bangladesh Awami League, had won the election. Now, viewers, since taking oath in the year 1996, and if you now look at 2024, Sheikh Hasina has been in power for almost 20 years in Bangladesh, and this has made her the longest serving Prime Minister of the nation. Now, viewers, when it comes to the causes of the protest, one of the biggest factors behind this protest is a provision which was introduced by the founding father of Bangladesh, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, in the year 1972. This provision was about providing 30% reservation to those who are the descendants of the martyrs of the 1971 war, which led to Bangladesh being formed and, of course, the defeat of Pakistan. It is this provision which was enacted, which has now come under a lot of doubt and outrage across Bangladesh, and that is one of the biggest purposes which is behind this mayhem. Later on in the year 2018, there were massive protests which took place against this very provision, which many people felt was discriminatory against a large section of society. The then government, led by Sheikh Hasina, had abolished all the quotas and the reservations which were being provided. But interestingly, in June 2024, that is just a few months back, the High Court of Bangladesh gave an order in which it provided 56% reservation in government jobs for children and grandchildren of freedom fighters, as well as women and people from disadvantaged areas. This is what has fueled the massive protests, which has now led to such dramatic scenes being witnessed. Now, this anger against the provision for reservation also comes at a time when the unemployment situation in Bangladesh is alarming. Yes, viewers, according to the recent data, 32 million young people out of 170 million total people are either out of work or education, which means that the unemployment rate in Bangladesh is at an average 15%. This anger against joblessness in the country is what fueled this protest, added together with this existing provision. The point to be noted here is that the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina was seen as agreeing to this kind of judgment which was given by the High Court, and thereby going against the popular public sentiment which was existing across Bangladesh. This had angered students, which started to perceive her as being anti-democratic as well as against their interests. But later on, in July 2024, the Supreme Court of Bangladesh gave an order in which it said that 93% government jobs would be provided on merit, and only 7% would be reservation would be provided to the relatives of the martyrs of the 1971 war. But it is clearly, viewers, the response which was given by Sheikh Hasina to these entire protests which has led to this kind of outrage. Further, to build upon that, this is where it's important to talk about the political character of Sheikh Hasina. Her first term came in the year 1996 when her party had won the election. Then again in 2009, she had won the election fair and square. But before her third term, which began in the year 2014, there was a boycott of the elections which took place by the opposition, not just because of allegations of rigging of elections, but also because key opposition leaders were jailed. Yes, in 2014, just before the elections, Miss Khalidia Zia, who is one of the leading voices of the opposition and part of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, was jailed on corruption charges. Later on, it was in the year 2018 that she was sentenced to 5 years of imprisonment on those corruption charges, and this punishment was later extended up to 10 years. This sentencing of her for 10 years is what fueled the boycott of the elections by the opposition in the year 2018 as well, along, of course, with allegations of rigging again. Now, finally, this year, if we talk about the year 2024, here also there was an extremely controversial voting which was done in the country. What I mean is, here as well, allegations of large-scale rigging of elections in favor of the incumbent Bangladesh Awami Party and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. This also was boycotted by the opposition. So you can clearly see, viewers, it is her political character there also which had come into question. Now, when we talk about specifically for these protests, in these protests, the Prime Minister had called the protesters as Razakars. What do you mean by Razakars? Razakars are referred to those people who were collaborators with the Pakistan army during the 1971 war, basically doubting their patriotism and trying to position them as traitors working against the country. This is what further angered the protesters, viewers. Along with that, the protests after a while did become violent, with several instances of clashes being reported between the police and the protesters. According to the current data, 560 people have been killed in the protests. They have died since the protests began, out of which 232 people were dead since the resignation of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. So clearly, the mishandling of the protests is something which has caused her a lot. Now, why all of this is very troubling for India, viewers, is because the Islamic Chhatra Shibir, which is the student wing of the Jamaat-e-Islami, which has spearheaded the protests, has deep funding as well as connections with Pakistan's inter-service intelligence, that is the ISI, which means there is a definite Pakistan hand in the violence which has broken out in Bangladesh. What does this mean, viewers? That going forward now, India could have huge border tensions even with Bangladesh. So after Pakistan and China, Bangladesh could also be the country with which India has hostile border relations, which also means is that there is a big possibility of a Pakistan, Bangladesh and China nexus against India going forward, because we all know that Pakistan and China do support each other and will try very hard to try and get Bangladesh completely on their side to further try and destabilize India. The second reason why this is also very troubling is because India had very good diplomatic as well as economic relations with Bangladesh under Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Now there are many speculations that all of that could come under a cloud given a complete change of guard in Bangladesh. We will only have to wait and see what happens in the days to come. That's all for now, viewers. Thank you.